This instructional screencast will focus on rhetorical strategies, such as ethos, logos, and pathos. All three of these strategies are the power of persuasion. Rhetorical strategies. The history of rhetoric and the concepts of ethos, pathos, and logos began in Greece. The definition of rhetoric is the art of effective or persuasive speaking or writing, especially the use of figures of speech and other compositional techniques. Aristotle was a famous Greek philosopher who studied the art of persuasion, and he is the one that ethos, pathos, and logos came from. To quote Aristotle, "Now the proofs furnished by the speech are of three kinds. The first depends upon the moral character of the speaker, the second upon putting the hearer into a certain frame of mind, and the third upon the speech itself, in so far as it proves or seems to prove." In layman's terms, the first that Aristotle refers to references ethos, or the character of the speaker. The second he refers to references pathos. By putting the hearer into a frame of mind, he means that the speaker is convincing them by their feelings. And the third, upon the speech itself, that's the logos, or logic, that the speaker is using. Ethos. Ethos is a Greek word meaning character. Ethos is an appeal to authority and credibility. So the author-creator has credibility, believability, and or likability. This can come from inside the text, which is intrinsic, or from outside the text, which is extrinsic. So from inside the text, intrinsic, ethos is when the author says who they are. For example, if a doctor is writing a report, they would say, "I, a doctor of cardiology," and so on. You would know that they can be trusted. For the extrinsic reliability, you could see them in a doctor's coat and you would know that they are legitimately a doctor and someone who could be trusted. The speaker or writer must demonstrate credibility to the audience to be persuasive. So, for some examples, doctors, the president, and teachers, someone who is an expert in that field. An example of ethos is this Colgate ad. It says right on there, #1 brand recommended by dentists. We don't know who that man is, but dentists are experts on teeth, so we would trust what they think. Another example of ethos. Pretend you are sick and go to the doctor, and she gives you a prescription for a pill that would make you feel better. Would you take the pill? You might not know the medical reasoning behind the advice, but you trust the doctor and believe them. How would your reaction change if a friend tries to give you pills they had taken for an illness previously? For one, I would definitely trust a doctor's advice, since they have studied all areas of medicine. But if a friend is just trying to give you a pill that worked for them before, you aren't 100% sure that it's going to work. Moving on to logos. Logos is a Greek word meaning a word or reason. So logos refers to logic or reason during an argument. Logos refers to any attempt to appeal to the intellect, which means it uses numbers or facts, things that make sense. Logos appeals to the left side of our brain. We find certain patterns, conventions, and methods of reasoning to be convincing and persuasive. Numbers, polls, facts, and statistics are all examples of the persuasive use of logic or logos. One example of logos, this is a Penn State ad saying 1 in 5 women will be the victim of sexual assault during her college years. Not only are they using that fact, 1 in 5, to convince us to make a change, but they also have that visual that stands out, that one woman. Pathos. Pathos is a Greek word meaning suffering or experience. An appeal to emotions of the audience is how you effectively use pathos. So stories, scenarios, or statements are designed to create an emotional response in the audience to help persuade them. When you are persuaded by pathos, you accept a claim based on how it makes you feel, without fully analyzing how valid the claim is. You might be persuaded by fear, love, patriotism, hatred, joy, humor, and guilt. The use of pathos can be extremely effective, but also manipulative. For example, if you're watching some commercials, they usually include some sob stories in there. One commercial that stands out to me are those commercials that show a car accident with a teen speaking to their parent. You don't necessarily know those children. There's nothing credible about them, but you feel sad, so it convinces you. Another example of pathos. This is an ad to stop smoking cigarettes. It says, "Every cigarette we smoke makes fatty deposits stick in our arteries." The visual depiction of the inside of the cigarette being the fat in our arteries gives me an emotional response of disgust and makes me not want to smoke a cigarette. Therefore, the ad is effective. An effective, persuasive person utilizes all three components. They use logos, pathos, and ethos together, and they all work as a fluid machine to persuade their audience.